This is Sydney's King's Cross, famous for its sex and its drugs. Its landmarks include the El Alamein Fountain and the Empire Hotel, formerly the Carousel Club and Les Girls, the last known place where the publisher and activist Juanita Neilsen was seen alive. Juanita Neilsen, the occupant in 202 Victoria Street, is also strongly opposed to the redevelopment. A committed social activist, Neilsen, however, is not aligned to the residents' action group.
With those people removed from the street, she saw herself as the only person there left to fight the battle for Victoria Street. And she did so through her paper, through Now. And the paper became her soapbox. She became somebody who was converted to campaigning journalism.
In 1973, Juanita is offered $200,000 for her tiny terrace in Victoria Street, an extraordinary amount of money at the time, but she resists the pressure to sell. Born Juanita Joan Smith on April 22nd, 1937, she's the only child of Neil and Wilma.
Juanita was a very elegant person. She came from a patrician background, a family of old money, one of the wealthiest families in Sydney, the Foy family. They owned vast tracts of land in the eastern suburbs.
When she spoke to you, what I particularly liked about her was that she really focused her eyes on you. She had these very dark brown eyes, and she'd focus on you, and because she was giving you she was paying full attention to what you were saying.
Ironically, it's through a gift of $50,000 from her father, following the eventual sale of Foy's, that allows Juanita to purchase 202 Victoria Street. She also buys the local newspaper, Now, and forms a partnership with press photographer David Farrell on a personal and professional level. Together, they consolidate Now from a local rag, predominantly interested in advertising and entertainment, to a far more serious political and crusading newspaper.
Well, she was not just writing stories, she was very much becoming a player. She met Jack Mundy, who's quite famous in the green band scene. She met John Glebe, who was the secretary of the Water and Sewage Union, I think, and various other players. And she was instrumental in getting one after another ban on development in Victoria Street occurring.
The green ban and the resultant delay in the redevelopment are now costing Frank Teeman $3,000 a day in interest payments alone. Through her connection with the Water and Sewerage Union, Juanita Neilsen now stands as the biggest obstacle to Frank Teeman's redevelopment dream, and more immediately, his financial security.
He tried to persuade through charm Juanita. Every attempt that he made failed. He began to be disillusioned that he could achieve some sort of resolution by the normal means that he employed.
Juanita starts to receive threatening telephone calls and fears for her safety. Unknown to her at the time, a number of attempts are made to lure her away.
And we said, well, in that light, we agreed that she would keep me fully informed of her movements from that time on, so that should anything occur, I would be immediately alert to it. And we followed that for some weeks.
And in keeping with this policy, Juanita tells him that she has a meeting with Eddie Trigg at the Carousel Club on the morning of July 4, 1975, to discuss advertising in the newspaper Now.
Juanita arrived at the club and walked up the stairs.
Loretta Crawford is the receptionist at the Carousel Club.
She was met by Loretta Crawford, who'd been asked earlier that morning to make sure that she was there on time because of the meeting with Juanita. Loretta had hoped that Juanita would not turn up, but here she was in front of her, and she worried about what was going to unfold that day.
Sorry I'm so late.
Oh, that's all right.
Bit of a hard night, but...
Bit of a bumpy one, was it?
yeah, something like that.
Would you like to have a coffee?
Yeah, that would be great, thank you.
Hi, Juanita. So let's come upstairs.
Eddie Trigg came down from the upstairs VIP room and greeted Juanita and escorted her back up to the bar.
So as I mentioned, a half-page ad will be $130.
Eddie Trigg pays Juanita $130 for a half-page advertisement in Now and is given a receipt for the transaction. This is the last known moment of Juanita Neilsen's life. She had made plans to have dinner with David Farrell later that evening, but she never shows.
I continued to call in the early hours of the morning and on. My voice was heard on the message bank that she had. We were extremely concerned. I spoke to other friends, and it was Saturday night I went to the police and reported her as a missing person.
In 1983, 8 years after Juanita Neilsen disappeared, a coronial inquest concludes that she's probably dead, but that it's not possible to say how, when, or where she died. And the jury adds that there is evidence to show that the police inquiries were inhibited by an atmosphere of corruption, real or imagined, that existed at the time.
It was big and public. It was on TV every night. The police were intensely busy, but they were not investigating intensively, as far as I knew, at the carousel where I believe she never left alive.